What's up, y'all? It's your boy eBay Fight Prediction with a second video on Saturday. Y'all already know what it is. I'm a little bored, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. Today I kind of, I thought I'd be used to having no fights, on Saturday, and I'm just not used to it. It's kind of weird. And I thought some boxing was gonna be at the my boy Ennis, Jerron Ennis. I thought he was gonna be fighting today. So, and he's going to be fighting actually this Saturday. So, which is wild. And having Bellator on Friday was so weird because like I was so busy, but I was able to catch the whole card. But it was such a hard day. If they would have had it this Saturday, it would have been dope. But it is what it is. You can't ask for everything. But I decided to make a nice little video for y'all before all my breakdowns come out this following week. I will be doing a big because the full card predictions. I'm not going to do it again. I already did one for Till and Vittori, and obviously Till fell out, but those fights are still intact. But I will be giving you guys 4 breakdowns for fight week. One for Mike Perry versus D-Rod. Kevin Holland versus Marvin Vittori is actually coming out tomorrow. Arnold Allen versus Sadiq Yusuf, and Mackenzie Dern versus Nina Ansarov. All that will be coming out for this following week. And I think if I can, I will try my best to do it. I will try to watch the ONE FC on TNT card. If they, have normal time zones, I'll be able to watch it. If it's really early in the morning, I don't know, but I'm going to try to watch, and that recap will be coming out soon, and a recap for the ABC card with Till and Holland will also be coming out. That's just it. But this video today is my top 5 fights to make in the summer of 2021. These are some blockbuster fights I thought that should be added. These guys should be competing. I will have an honorable mention. I guess you can say top 6, but my honorable mention that didn't make the top 5 is Colby Covington versus Michael Chiesa. I gotta add my boy Colby somehow, y'all. Y'all already know me. I can't have him out the list. He's the GOAT. You already know the number one welterweight in the world. With the welterweight division, and the landscape that it is right now. I mean, Colby has made he's made somewhat of a mistake in my humble opinion. To be left out in this rotation of fights that have been made. I mean, this is gonna be tough for him to get a title shot, man. He's looking at a title shot maybe in 2022 or 2023. He's done this before, but at least he did it, somewhat near his prime, right? He's still in his prime, but in his early prime. Now he's 33. He's playing games, right? I don't want to see him 35 fight Kumar Usman again and get smashed, right? I think he can beat him right now. I really do believe that. I think Colby is just as good as that guy. Marty can say whatever he wants, but he is just as good as you. I think Colby's just right there up with him. And I think he needs some competition. I get it. Chiesa isn't a big name, and that's what he wants to do. He wants these big names and somewhat easy fights for him. Looking back at the Robbie Lawler fight, it was a phenomenal performance. I thought I had him 5-0. But man, and Robbie Lawler, in my humble opinion, looked different in that fight than his Neil Magny fight. But you still look at the situation. He it doesn't look. It hasn't aged well. T Wood hasn't aged well. His only win that has looked all right might be against Rafael Dos Anjos, but Dos Anjos has lost to Kumar Usman, Leon Edwards, and Michael Chiesa. I think if Colby fights Chiesa, I think he can put some respect on his name because Chiesa is a dangerous welterweight right now. I don't know if he can ever win a title. I'm not gonna say that, but he's a stud, man. He surprised me. Even though I picked him to beat Neil Magny, I did not think he was gonna have that much of a domination over him. And I was shocked how he made Magny look bad. And then his fight against Dos Anjos, I picked against him. I thought Dos Anjos was gonna beat him. And then he did really good against Dos Anjos. And then I thought maybe Dos Anjos is fucking shot. But it might be the fact that this kid's actually good. And I've been a part of it too. We've roasted this kid for being trash and his striking being trash. But this kid's a good grappler. And his striking has gotten a little better since them other days. But I've been impressed with him. He's been doing his thing, and I think he deserves a top 5 opponent. I think he deserves to fight someone like a Colby Covington. He's been asking for it. He's been calling him out. And I think that's the fight to make. I honestly do. That's an honorable mention. But to the top five, and at number five, since we were speaking about the man, I got Rafael dos Anjos versus Justin Gaethje. Obviously, Justin Gaethje is coming off his loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov. He has been kind of ruled out of the title fight talks between Chandler and Charles Oliveira. And Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor probably will fight. Probably the winner will fight for a belt. Uh, it's an interesting situation. And if Dustin wins that fight with Conor, which I'm starting to think he does, I'm starting to lean towards Dustin. Even though I picked Conor in the rematch, I will have to remind you guys that one hurt. Even though I'm not the biggest Conor fan, I really wish I would have picked Dustin that day. But it is what it is. Dustin does have a win over Justin Gaethje. That is a fact. You can't deny it. It happened. He stopped him. He didn't beat him by decision. He didn't. It was no fluke. It was just he was better. And Dustin will probably fight for a title, and Justin will have to wait. I think Justin should fight somebody. Dos Anjos, he went through the ringer at welterweight, but really proved himself against Paul Felder and reminded people that, he was a former lightweight champion and beat Paul Felder, in my humble opinion, 4-1. I don't know what that judge was watching. I don't know what kind of crack he was smoking to think that was to think Paul Felder won that fight. I commend Felder for stepping in on 1 week's notice and getting it done. And doing what he had to do, but he lost the fight, in my humble opinion. Dos Anjos versus Gaethje's a great fight. Gaethje's a good fighter. I don't think he's a bad fighter. I know I've kind of roasted him on my channel a lot, but he's a good guy, man. He's a good, humble guy. I don't think he's a bad guy. But I just never understood the crowning of the king, almost like that he's like the real number one threat to Khabib Nurmagomedov. The guy has been taken down. He got taken down by Michael Johnson, for God's sakes, man. Like, so I just I never understood that kind of hype around Gaethje. He's a good, fun fighter to watch. I always felt like he was always the number 4 guy in the division, even though, let's say, he might be the number 1 guy. I never thought he was really, truly the best guy in his own division. I always thought he was the 4th best. I always thought there were at least 3 or 2 guys ahead of him, right? And I felt like I got proven right when he fought Khabib, and he did his thing against Tony, and I predicted him to beat Tony. I will say that I did predict him to get it done, but that's because I nothing against Tony. I never thought he was, his technique was truly elite. The only thing I felt like the only thing that made Tony elite was his tenacity, his work ethic, and his self-belief in himself. I think that's what made him elite. But Dos Anjos he's a credentialed lightweight. He deserves respect. He hasn't really lost to everyone in the lightweight division like at welterweight. He's only lost to Eddie Alvarez, Tony Ferguson just recently. You could look back, maybe Clay Guida, right, all the way back then. But the guy is a good fighter. He's fought everyone, and I think this would be a scrap and has a legitimate chance of winning. That guy has one hell of an arm triangle. He can take motherfuckers down. He took Kevin Lee down, who's a good wrestler in his own right. Obviously, Kevin Lee was a Division II guy, but at least Kevin Lee actually wrestles in MMA and uses his wrestling, unlike Gaethje, right? So you never know. Maybe Dos Anjos can take him down and submit him. It's possible. He has a chance. Dos Anjos isn't a bad striker. He hasn't been knocked out recently, so that is one thing. I don't even think he's been knocked down, actually, in any of his last 4 fights. I think the last time he got hurt really was against Eddie. So he has an iron chin, man. The guy, he's coming back from a broken jaw before. He's a good fighter, but if anyone could knock him out, Gaethje is a guy that can answer that call. He hits hard. He hits hard, y'all. Like, oh my God, Gaethje can hit, y'all. He can hit bad. Like, he can crack. So I'll give him that. I will give Gaethje that, and I feel like that's a fight to make in the summer. Next one up, At number 4, I got Calvin Kattar versus Josh Emmett. Man, this is a phenomenal fight. I love this fight, man. Both guys, are really hand dominant in terms of their striking offense. They like to throw hands a lot. They do throw kicks here, once in a while, here and there. You know what I'm saying? Um, but man, Josh Emmett, one of the best overhands in the game. Calvin Kattar, one of the best 1-2s I've seen in a minute. Both guys are here to scrap. Both guys want to go back in the top 5. Both guys have had some bad losses in that top 5 featherweight division. At the time, Jeremy Stephens, well, he wasn't at the time, but when Jeremy Stephens beat Josh Emmett, I think he was the number 3 guy in the world. And when he fought Jose Aldo, I think he was number 3. Um, so, Jeremy Stephens at that time, when he fought Josh Emmett was coming off that crazy win over Ricardo Lamas, and Josh Emmett got sent back to reality after Jeremy Stephens fucking destroyed him, which was wild. I mean, it's so crazy, man. Through this run that Josh Emmett has been on, I almost forget that he was unconscious, and man, his career was on the line after what Jeremy Stephens did to him. And then same thing with Calvin Kattar coming off. I picked Calvin Kattar to beat Max, so I gotta eat these words. But to get humiliated like that by Max, and after there was a lot of talk about the boxing and the striking. Obviously, this was an MMA fight, and there was a lot of kicks that was thrown by Max, but there was a lot of exchanges, and there was a lot of things that Max did to Kattar that was somewhat like, you gotta look back and be like, man, I got smacked up. I got he got lit up. He got lit up bad. And so both guys have tasted defeat. Now, obviously, Emmett is coming off a 3-fight win streak. And he was in the top 5. Like, people forget Emmett was, I think, number 3 or number 4 in the top 5, of the featherweight division. And this guy was considered a legitimate up-and-coming title contending prospect, and it just it didn't really happen for him. He started his MMA career kind of late. He does have a wrestling background, that's why he's so jacked, but he doesn't use any of his, right? He's just a striker. And but he is older. I think he's 35. So but he's a different kind of 35 because he's a learning kind of 35, if you know what I'm saying, because he doesn't have the wear and tear like a lot of people do, in terms of like like you look at Jose Aldo, right? He's been doing it for so long. But him, obviously the body does break down eventually, but and he has been through some severe injuries, but I think he has one last run left in him to title gold in the featherweight division. And he might end up being the best guy out of the alpha male gym when you really look at it. Cody Garbrandt is doing his thing, but when I look at guys that have been consistently getting W's, I look at him, honestly. So I think that's the fight to make, him and Kattar. I think it would be a banger. I think it would be a great opportunity for Kattar to get some redemption and some respect back, and it'd be a great opportunity for Josh Emmett to make a stamp and rise up in the featherweight weight class. And at number 3, we were just talking about him. My boy Jose Aldo versus Pedro Munoz is a fight I would like to see in the summer. This is an awesome fight. Jose Aldo's coming off a win over Marlon Chito Vera, and Pedro is coming off a win over my guy Jimmy Rivera in the rematch. And a phenomenal scrap, man. That fight was so great. That Jimmy Rivera and Pedro Munoz fight was so fun to watch. Those guys went at it. It was so technical. It was beautiful to watch. This is a great fight, man. We got 2 leg kicking fucking masters. Pedro Munoz does have a loss to Frankie Edgar. Obviously, Aldo has a win. This is going to be an awesome fight. I just think it's just a good scrap. And Aldo kind of missed his boat, man. There was talks about Aldo versus Cody Garbrandt, Aldo versus TJ Dillashaw, and he missed his boat with those guys. I think Aldo kind of has to defend his spot. I think he's the top 5 guy. Pedro Munoz, people honestly felt like he won the Frankie Edgar fight. I understand. I actually had those sentiments, but I didn't care because Frankie's my guy. I love Frankie. And I thought Frankie did better than a lot of people were giving him credit for. So I will say that. But it's just, he is coming off a loss. He does have a loss of Frankie, and we saw what Frankie, how Frankie died against against that guy Corey Sandhagen, and yeah, that was a hard one to watch, if I say so myself. But yeah, I think this is a good fight. I think it's a logical fight to make, and I feel like Pedro should be rewarded for getting a win. This is a higher level I really honestly, this is also kind of, you know we're gonna see how well Aldo is at this bantamweight division. Can he, he does have a loss to Peter Yan, but there is a new champ in Aljamain Sterling, which is shocking, but that's not going to last too long. I'm going to let y'all know that right now. But, you never know. We don't know how good Aldo could be in this weight class. He could be a legitimate gatekeeper and can last for a long time and maybe get a title shot again. You never know. Or we'll find out if it is time for him to hang it up. So I think this is an awesome fight to make. And at number 2, y'all know me. I'm a big Rakic mark, and this is somewhat some fantasy play. And this fight might not be able to happen in the summer if I look at the dates. But my guy, Alexander Rakic versus Yuri Prochazka, I think that's how you say his name, is a fight that needs to be made. It doesn't matter if it's in the summer, but it's a fight that needs to be made. I would love for these guys to fight for a title, but it's one of those things that, they have to beat the champion, you know what I'm saying? And I think they're going to fight each other before they fight for a belt. I just looking at the way it's been talked about, Alexander Rakic did an interview saying he wants to fight the winner of Reyes versus Yuri. And I kind of think Yuri's going to beat Reyes, even though it is weird, though, how some MMA fans were sucking Dominic Reyes, man, dry. I mean, when was it? Might have been 5 months ago in September, whenever it was, when he fought fucking Jan Blachowicz. Dude, I had, I don't like talking. I don't like talking mess to fans that write me comments, right? It is what it is. But I had fans writing me fucking paragraphs, essays, saying that Dominic Reyes is above Jan Blachowicz. There's levels to this game, and, he beat John Jones, and, Dominic Reyes versus Israel Adesanya is the fight to make, and it's nonsense like that is what I heard constantly. But Reyes is not, I didn't see it. I thought Reyes lost to Volkan Ozdemir. I know some people would disagree with that. Even if you don't think he lost to Volkan Ozdemir, he had a bad performance against Volkan Ozdemir. Volkan exposed a lot of things in his game, his wrestling game, his tenacity, his ability to, he didn't expose his ability to go through adversity, but, I saw him wilt, and he wilt against John Jones in those championship rounds. I did think he won the John Jones fight, I will say that, but that's more a testament to John than to him. I think John has somewhat degraded through the years, but, Reyes can win the Yuri fight, but I think Yuri might hurt him though. You never know. This is it's a hard fight to say, and I don't want to doubt Reyes, but I don't like Reyes, so that's the problem. But yeah, I think Yuri might beat him. I think he would, and if he does, him versus Rakic is the fight to make. Rakic is a fucking killer. He's a future king. I know that pisses you guys off when I say Rakic is a future king, and I'm not from Siberia. All right, I'm not from Siberia, by the way. I'm from America, and I'm in California. You guys are hitting me with this. Oh, this guy's from Siberia. He's just some dick rider of Rakic. No, my boy Rakic is going to destroy Yuri. I'm gonna say that right now, because Yuri. I mean, oh my God, I saw so many holes in that Volkan Ozdemir fight. Man, I think honestly, and some of y'all might call me a hater, but I think Volkan Ozdemir was just dumbfounded how dumb this guy looks, right? He was just eating shots. And I think Volkan had no respect for Yuri and ended up getting caught. I think Rakic is not going to make the same mistake. You've seen how Rakic fought Thiago Santos. He's measured. He's a tactician, He's a master at what he does. He has great wrestling, He works with the Olympic wrestling team near him, near his MMA gym. his striking is great. He has he has records in kickboxing and boxing, and obviously I think it's the amateur leagues, right? But he's done it, and as an MMA fighter, he's gonna have that experience. He's jacked, all right. Now obviously the picture I'm using doesn't make him look more jacked, but he's in the picture I'm using, he's cut some weight. Yuri's probably eating some goddamn pork or whatever he eats where he's from, but yeah, I think Rakic will beat this guy. It's a hard fight for Rakic. I'm not saying it's an easy fight, but I think Rakic, man, he will do bad things. And if Reyes decides to go out there and fuck around and beat Yuri, oh my God, say goodbye to Reyes' life if he fights Rakic, man. Y'all must have forgot, bro. Y'all must have forgot what happened to Manoa. But it is what it is. And at number 1, y'all already know what it is. It's John Jones versus my guy Francis Ngannou. Ngannou. How did DC say it? He said Ngannou. But this is the fight to make, man. I mean, there's a part of me that thought about if Stipe would have beat Francis and they did Stipe versus John, there would have been a really interesting moment for the hardcore fans, because you could say Stipe is the greatest heavyweight of all time and John is the greatest light heavyweight of all time, and they would match up and it would be awesome. And I thought about that's a really great promo for that fight. But obviously that's not gonna happen because Ngannou shut that shit down and broke fucking Stipe's jaw and his kneecap. But I think this fight is blockbuster though. This is a monster, in Ngannou fighting an emperor in John, if I could call him that. John is, I mean, legitimately, I could compare him to the Michael Jordan of MMA. I mean, there's so many comparisons you could make with John and MJ, but I don't want to go off on too much on basketball. But John is, I mean, legitimately one of the best of all time, man. His record speaks for himself, and obviously you can say, oh, all he did was fight with the middleweights and fucking fat light heavyweights, right? But those middleweights were pound for pound greats, man. Like the guys he beat, man. Beating TRT Vitor. All right, that guy was on TRT when he fought John. Beating Rashad Evans and Rampage Jacksons and Shoguns and Lyoto Machidas and even Ryan Bader, who's the current heavyweight champion at fucking Bellator. And his resume speaks for himself. Beating DC, right, and the way he beat DC. I mean, the guy, he deserves his respect. I get it. You can say, oh, those don't look good now. But when he did it, that's what matters, is when he did it. You have to respect the history of the sport, right? And you have to respect when he did it. You have to respect those guys' resumes, right? So, I mean, he accomplished a lot of great things. And I would say this, even though Stipe Miocic is the Division I wrestler and John is the Division II wrestler, I do believe John, and his wrestling hasn't looked good as of late, he still is a better wrestler than Stipe Miocic, in my humble opinion. That's what I'm going to say. He's not as sloppy as Stipe. Stipe in that first fight in Ngannou, I saw a lot of sloppy takedowns that Ngannou could overcome. Stipe, I feel like in his MMA career became more of a boxer than a wrestler, and I think he kind of abandoned his wrestling. But he had the experience as a wrestler that he could bring out of his back pocket that he used against Ngannou in that first fight. But in that second fight, it was null and void, man. It was over after that. It's just like you can compare the levels of grappling, right? So when John fought DC, right, John got picked up in that first fight, I think in the 5th round. He got slammed, but he got right back up. And John took DC down a few times. And yeah, there were some times that DC, was taken down by Stipe. Those do exist. That did happen. But DC never controlled John on the ground for a long period of time. DC picked up Stipe in I think the first round of the second fight, and he slammed him, and I think he controlled him for maybe 3 minutes straight or 2. That never happened with John, So, I think there is levels, and I think he does have a chance. But there will be a hammer of justice that will be slammed on John's head if he fights Ngannou. I truly believe that. I think Ngannou will smash John. I think John he's putting a lot of weight because he wants to grapple, which is smart. I will give him that. He is putting on a lot of weight because he wants to grapple. But I mean, he will get destroyed if he misses one takedown, right? If he slips, you know, if he keeps his hands extended and that reach ain't that big. What he does have the reach, but it ain't that big. It ain't that big when they fight. And if he, doesn't block the hook correctly, right? And if his chin is, he always does this with his reach, but he's able to get away with it because he's long. But he has his chin in the air. And if his chin is not in the right place and it gets touched, he might go down. And I could see it really, really happening to John. And I think John will get smashed. And, I'm a big DC fan, so John doing what he did to my guy DC was it hurt. It hurt growing up. I had to accept that because, obviously, I'm from California. DC trains out of San Jose. I live pretty close to San Jose. And, I've always been Team DC all the time. But it was hard to see that happen to DC like that. And I was like, God damn, man, that sucked. But it is what it is at the end of the day. But John is a horrible, horrible human being. I will say this, I would never attack John for his steroid use. I've never made any attacks like that. I will not take away his legacy because of things he did in his past. I will only do that to TRT Ortega because no one else will do it. I'm just joking with y'all. But, yeah, John, he's not a good... The stories I heard about him with Tyson Griffin, I'm not a fan of that. You can go search up the DMs that he sent to a former training partner, and some of the things he's done in his past. He's just not a good human being. I think he's a good human being to the fans, but to other MMA fighters and in other MMA gyms, he's just an asshole. And that's really why I compare him to a guy like MJ. MJ was like that himself, But I just think Francis will humble this guy if he decides to come up, and all the bullshit he did back in the day will haunt him. We're seeing, I told y'all, we will never see Adesanya versus John. You can go and play that on UFC 4. That is the closest you're going to fucking get to that dumb matchup. All right? And I told y'all, okay? So, and Izzy's getting prepared to get humbled too. Because if that Italian goes out there and destroys Kevin Holland and fucking has his way with those other middleweights, and he comes up and fights for that belt, he will slay the villain in Adesanya. I promise you that. And John will get knocked out by Ngannou. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to follow me on my Instagram. Don't forget to follow me on my Twitter. Subscribe. Go click the notification button. Like, share, and comment. Love y'all, and goodbye.